Hey guys, this is part 2. I'm going to do the rest of the video. I watched it and I thought it was pretty good. So this is the rest of the interview between Susan Sarandon, Josh Fox, and Chris Hayes.
Most of them are. So just the way South Africa worked, people have to be aware that when they buy products, even though they might be tweeting and liking and everything else and trying to get the word out, they have to know that if they're in certain banks, that they're paying for these things, and that divestment really works. And they have to understand how dangerous it is, because a lot of people are finding out about eminent domain, where they have land, they've just finished paying off their land, and now they don't have the right to keep fracking off their land. And if you don't have water, it doesn't matter, all of these philosophical looking back kind of things. This is where it's being decided. This is a huge threat to our way of life.
So on the pipeline, because I think this is really important, right? So there's two things to think about here. One is I think a little bit of a bait and switch, right? So I don't think the vast majority of voters were like, oh, I'm going to go and vote for them to okay the Dakota Access Pipeline, right? No. The president himself even said in one of those things, he said, oh, I'm getting no calls about the Dakota Access Pipeline. Like, you voted for me for this kind of change, and what you're going to get is oil and gas industry run amok, right? So then the question becomes, from the sort of political education, mobilization, organization standpoint, does that create an opportunity to stop this stuff?
Well, okay, the opportunity has been going on for the last 10 years. Obama is the one who's left us with the legacy of 300 frack gas power plants that are being proposed for this United States.
Right.
That's thousands of pipelines. That's millions of fracking wells. That was Hillary Clinton and Obama's plan. It was called the Global Shale Gas Initiative. Obama was the fracker-in-chief for 8 years.
Right.
You cannot come in 3 weeks into a Trump administration and say, oh, all these pipeline battles are happening because of Donald Trump. That's absolutely not.
He's right. He's absolutely right. He's like, because that does kind of sound like what Chris Hayes is arguing. Like, oh my God, the sky is falling. Donald Trump is taking office. And Josh Fox and Susan Sarandon is kind of continuously making this point to him. This was here before Trump took office. This was here before Trump took office. Just because Obama can sing and he can speak very well doesn't mean that the stuff he was doing was all that different than what Trump's doing.
Of course. And I would say that Donald Trump is a referendum on Obama's legacy for progressives, because progressives could not muster the courage to vote for the Clean Power Plan when it meant more fracking. To say, okay, well, we had a recovery, but 95% of that recovery went to the 1%, and everybody else in America is at 2008 levels. You can't get mad at us. We were the people who were out there saying, we're pushing for Bernie here because this is a candidate that's actually addressing the issues.
The question is, what's the leverage?
And
what is the leverage?
Well, I think
the thumb on the scale, like the DNC did, first we have to do is get Keith Ellison elected. And absolutely, these protests that you're seeing all over the country, we're just getting started. There are going to be protest camps like at DAPL in Louisiana at Bayou Bridge Pipeline, in the Delaware River Basin, in Florida at the Sable Trail Pipeline, in Denver where they're talking about doing new fracking. People are talking about protest camps all across this country. I think we're going to see that, and Standing Rock leading the way.
And there's the question of environmental study. I mean, it's illegal. So there's a lot of lawsuits that are going on now, too, because just to say, okay, forget about an environmental study, it's not legal. So, I mean, people are...
Yeah, I thought that was weird, too. So, you know, for no dabble, Obama eventually came around to pushing through it's essentially an environmental study. Trump comes in office. Trump says, yeah, I want you to rescind that. And they say, oh, well, okay, well, let's rescind it. But it's an environmental study. There are rules governing how those things are done. Now, is the federal government just saying those things are just for naught? I mean, they don't really particularly matter. They're just a political tool. Or do they actually have a purpose? If it has a purpose, it is not being met, because it's being just ripped away. Also, Josh Fox is making a really good point. 95% of the gains went to the top 1%. He's like, look, during this entire interview, it sounds like they're under stress. Or at the very least, it feels like they're like in explaining mode. And granted, even though they're not coming at it that way, that's just the way it feels, just because of how fast they're moving from topic to topic. But they are right. I mean, what they're saying is not wrong at all. Chris Hayes hates to hear it. But they keep making the same point. You understand this was here before Trump got here. You understand this was here before Trump got here. Do you understand? The entire interview goes that way. It absolutely goes that way. It's amazing. You know, I talk to Democrats I think, let me see, the last time I talked to somebody, I think it was maybe a month ago. And the guy, he was arguing in the sense of, so I call these people apologists. Like, because for the most part they're apologizing for the stuff that the prior administration did. He followed the same way. Chris Hayes is for the most part taking it to a whole different extent of, all of this stuff is new. I've never seen this before, and when Obama left, my world shattered.
We're going to push that. So that's important. But also having countries, having cities divest. The whole idea, Europe is transitioning. We're way behind, you know, because they want to get these structures in. So they're there for 40 years because they know oil and gas is on the way out. It's not tenable. So people have to understand what's involved here, and they have to understand that people's personal property is not just the Native Americans, which is a very, very, very interesting picture to see this standoff when the vets are there now. But have to understand that all over the country this is happening and how dangerous they are, so that they can then, we've got the midterm elections. So for instance, in New York, who's going to be the next mayor? What's going to happen? I mean, so you want to find people that are going to support divesting from this, and it's already happened in Seattle, and it can happen in other cities, can happen with...
I really like Susan Sarandon. Like, the more I see this video, the more I like her. She is immensely wrong on this, but why she's wrong is the sweetest thing that I've seen in a while. So she's making this case like, look, people have to know. They got to be able to divest because of what's taking place in Standing Rock. They have to know. Her argument is predicated on the belief that if people know, they will do something. Like, and look, there have been cities that have actually divested from the banks dealing with DAPL. I think what she misses it as, and I understand why, she takes it as people would care. I'm not convinced. Like, look, as progressives, we're the conscience of the nation. And we really are. I mean, we're the people who are like the poor, the downtrodden, the people who had a hard way to go. We're their advocates. In the case of Susan Sarandon, she's saying, look, if people just knew, but not everybody's like her. Not everybody's going to care. In fact, I don't think most people care at all. That sounds bad, that sounds harsh, but I think it's absolutely true. The government is literally taking land from them. That is their land by treaty. And none of the parties are acknowledging it, but one party is actively going to try to steal it.
A lot of the environmental groups are making sure their money is there. Churches are making sure their money is there. Norway has taken their money out. Different countries are divesting. I think that that's also a very, very important turn. So when you have people that want to run for office, you say to them, this is a problem for me. Just like they did for Hillary Clinton. This is a problem for me. What can you give us? And they go to the polls. The good thing about this horrible thing of having Trump is that people are awake and they're participating and they're having town meetings and they're going to people's doorsteps and saying, what have you done and how could you get to Boston? I mean, on so many levels, because it's really visible now. I mean, Exxon's been involved in our government for a long time. All of these people have been involved in our government. It just hasn't been such a mess, so obvious. And this guy is so fumbling that he's given a real lesson in how things work or don't work. So that's our opportunity. As Leonard Cohen said, you know, the cracks are where the light comes in, so now we have to be the light.
that. Susan Sarandon and Josh Fox, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, she has a good point. She has a really good point. Yeah, and it's a point I think I've made a few times. Yes, the people who Trump is putting in is pretty grotesque. They're absolutely horrible. But do we really believe that oil interests or other corporate interests didn't already have their hooks in our government? That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sick of this this argument of, well, your party did this and your party did this. Both parties are hypocrites. That's the problem with parties. You get so stuck on this ideological thing that the actual point gets essentially fiddled away as just a political expedience. Yeah, Susan Rand has a point. I don't know how you change it otherwise. So, it's a great video. Thanks, guys.